Okay, if everybody could take their seats, please. Everybody take their seats, please. We're going to go ahead and get started. Madam Clerk, I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. It's now 7 p.m. Roll call.
Mayor Trippman,
Here.
Vice Mayor Samaria,
Here.
Commissioner Johnson Sadella,
Here.
Commissioner Tudor,
Here.
Commissioner Wise.
Here.
As a reminder, this is a special commission meeting solely for the purpose of selecting the final seat on the Charter Review Committee. All public comments should be geared towards that. We're going to open up public comments. Madam Clerk, call the first. No problem.
I like to have him first, if possible.
Do you want to go first, sir? You're welcome to. If the Madam Clerk doesn't mind, and if the audience doesn't mind, we're going to let him. No problem, sir. If you could state your name and address.
And thank you for your service.
Mayor on her election. We met some years ago. My name's Alan Markelson. Thank you. Alan Markelson. I actually live in an adjoining town, North Bay Village. I've lived there for 21 years, in Dade County about 30-some years. What's going on?
The microphone malfunctioning.
Malfunctions. Go ahead and take the voice.
One more time. That's better.
Encore.
My name's Alan Markelson. I'm a neighbor of yours from North Bay Village. I've lived there 21 years on Harbor Island, and in Dade County for over 30 years. As you can see from my cap, I'm a Korean veteran, scout sniper, deep reconnaissance. I'm lucky to be alive, and I figured God had some things for me to do before my time came up. I'm 88 years old, and about the only thing I haven't done in my life is run for public office. But I intend to be your next senator. I'm a Portuguese Jew with a Swedish name. God bless America. That covers all the bases. I'm up against a fellow who you may or may not know. It's a very nice chap, Jason Pizzo. He ran against a sitting senator who hadn't even got an address in the district and shouldn't have been allowed to run in the first place. Even so, she got 46.5% of the vote, which shows me that he's not exactly got a depth of popularity here. So I'll probably lose the Italian multimillionaire vote. He's done nothing in his life at all, ever, except marry a very, very lovely Jewish girl from New York City, whose father-in-law must see great potential in this kid. And he is a kid. It cost the father-in-law, can you believe this, over $2,100,000 to get his son-in-law elected over a lady who didn't even have an address in the district. On the other hand, I've done about everything you can think of. I drove Factory One cars for Formula One, Alfa Romeo, for Ferrari, Corvette, Aston Martin, etc. At one time, I was America's leading race car driver. That's when I was a kid. Since then, I'm chairman of Jackson Hospital for over 20-some years now, for which I get $1 a year. I haven't seen the dollar. I'm an intelligence officer, which means I report to the Director of National Intelligence, who reports to the President of the United States. And I can tell you straight up, my family and Donald Trump's family have been done business for 3 generations. Fred Trump and my father, if they weren't friends, at least they were associates. Fred Trump could never control Donald, and the result was we have a president who doesn't have a clue. That's pretty obvious every day. Even though I'm a Republican, I know Donald is doing the best he can. He's just not very smart. You can't blame someone for that. On the other hand, he doesn't seem to take good advice. He doesn't even read the intelligence reports, which I helped draw up. Every day, on his desk, he's got a bullet point, and he never reads it. He just doesn't read it. What are you going to do? Make a long story short, this country's in problems, and what little I can do in the Senate is let them know right off the bat, there's a new sheriff in town, to quote Elizabeth Warren. some years ago. The problem is that we have governments, local, state, federal, who just don't get it. And they're not here to help you and me. They're here to help themselves and make sure they get a pension. That's all I have to say. Vote for me, and I assure you, you'll be a different kind of politician in Tallahassee.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, will you call the next person to speak?
Dan Keith.
Hello, Dan Keys, 1107 118th Street. Just would love to have the honor of your vote in appointing me to the Charter Review Board. I think I do have an extent and breadth of knowledge regarding this particular issue, and appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, is that the next person? Go ahead.
Chuck Rossman, 1166 Griffin Boulevard. Nice beach, thank you. I support Dan to be on the Charter Review Committee. I have a question. We didn't stay for the whole meeting. I know Wednesday, but we had other plans, and the meeting was sudden. But you had inserted, it appears, items that would have to come up for a vote in that meeting ordinance you're submitting. Do you intend? Is that what you intended, to bring that for a vote? So can you answer me? Just curious.
Go ahead and finish.
Because it has something to do with the Charter Review Committee. Because the Charter Review Committee, whatever you're going to do before you bring something to the public for a vote, I'm talking about to a public vote at a general election or at a special election. Because if you're contemplating doing that, that's something that actually should come before the Charter Review Committee first. So I don't know. I mean, Rox told you guys that the sections you were talking about are the charter, not the regular code. And that has to come before a vote of the public. I don't know if you understand that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Just to briefly answer your question, if you watch the tape, the attorney addressed it at that time. If you go ahead and watch the workshop tape. Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, anybody else?
Nobody else.
No further public comments? Okay, public comments are closed. We're going to have, we have to revote, correct? I'm going to let you talk about the process, Attorney Rodriguez.
Sure, so in this...
Madam Mayor, I would like to ask, I have the votes here, the ballots, but for some reason I misplaced. Probably it's on my...
Go ahead. We'll take... Did you...
Wait,
Can we, hold on. I'm sorry. Attorney Rodriguez, go
you
ahead.
could just do a roll call.
We'll just do a roll call for this?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll just do a roll call for this, Madam Clerk. All right, do you have anything else you want to add? Sorry.
Yes, just for those who weren't here on the September 10th meeting, there was a tie vote for the final seat on the Charter Review Board. So the ties rolled to today for a special meeting to break the tie now that there's an odd number of commissioners present.
Vice Mayor, go ahead.
The question I also wanted, and I think I actually... Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I asked at the last meeting in reference to having two alternates for the other two items. You said we couldn't do that until we have the boards, correct?
Right, because you would potentially be appointing someone as an alternate that might get the seat. So
Okay.
you should do the tie first, and then if you want to have a conversation about alternates,
Okay.
that would happen after.
And then also, after we do this tonight, what is the next process? Because don't we have to give instructions to the board what they're supposed to do?
Yes, so the clerk and I met about that already. So your code requires the Charter Review Board to convene within 45 days of being appointed. So after today, well, you have a quorum as of the 10th, but so I would recommend the 45 days starts running from the 10th, but they have to have that first meeting within 45 days of appointment. So that's the first step. And then at that meeting, we'll kind of give them a crash course on what the Charter Review Board is, what their deadlines are. The clerk and I have already started working on what those materials will look like. But the first meeting needs to take place probably within the next month to comply with the code.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, roll call.
Mayor Trupman,
Manny Espinosa.
Vice Mayor Samaria,
Dan Keys. I'm sorry. Dan Keys.
Commissioner Johnson Sardella,
Manny Espinosa.
Commissioner Tudor,
Dan Keys.
Commissioner Wise,
Manny Espinosa.
Congratulations, Manny. And thank you, Mr. Keys, for applying.
so we have
So now would be the time.
So,
three
Manny,
votes to Manny,
Manny, two
and two to the
Mr. Keys.
Yes.
Right, so Manny Espinosa is the one.
No, wait.
Yes. Any question?
So, I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut off the clerk or the mayor. I think they were discussing something.
No, we're just clarifying the vote, that's all.
Okay, so now that you know who got that final seat, you have, all the seats on the Charter Review Advisory Board have been appointed.
Right.
So I believe there were 2 applicants who applied that did not get seats,
Yes.
Madam Clerk?
Yeah, one of them applied the next day of that was closed.
No.
So
we're
it was not-
talking about Mac,
So we have only one.
No.
that
McDowell,
was-
McDonald Kennedy and Dan Keys, I think is the 2 that,
Yes,
You're
now.
referring to,
it's
correct?
the Dan Keys,
So,
yes.
so did you consult with them before this meeting as to whether they were interested in an alternate seat?
No, not for this board. No.
I did.
Okay, and
And they're okay with it.
both?
Both of them, yes.
one's here we can ask.
And the other one I asked at the last meeting.
Okay, then, if someone wants to move to appoint them,
Right.
the commission should take a vote if there's a motion,
I-
and on each individual one, if they're both
But
interested.
before we do that, may I ask a question? Because this has not been done historically, wouldn't there have to be a motion to approve having
Alternate.
alternates? Because that's not something we've done historically on charter review.
So what your code says, it's section 230B1A, the village commission may appoint alternates for any board or committee as it deems necessary. So, I mean, I would have liked better language, but it can be interpreted your way or it can be interpreted his way. The reality is both have expressed an interest in, I mean, according to Vice Mayor Samaria, both have expressed an interest in serving as alternates. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay, then in that situation, I mean, it's like 6 of one, half dozen of the other. They're both interested, so.
Do
the
we vote
commission has-
individually, or do we vote for whether or not we're going to have alternates?
You could do it either way. My recommendation is to go one by one,
Can I?
Okay.
so
would
it's clearer,
would I-
you
Okay.
know, that you considered each one individually.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, can I explain why I think we should have alternates? This is a long process, and I know in the past, I mean, I've only been here 12 years, but I know in the past, things can come up, because this is a long process. And if we have one person that can't make it to a meeting, at least we'll have one of the other alternates that'll be able to sit in and fill the spot. So I think that you never know if we're going to have people drop out for family reasons or any reasons like that. So I just think that we have 2 people that are willing to serve on this board. One of them that is truly, truly qualified, has been on the board before, and I would hate to lose his expertise. So I'd like to make a motion that we have 2 alternates to
Um,
this board.
But the recommendation was to do it one at a time?
Yeah,
So,
right.
so do you want to make a recommendation first for,
Dan Keys. I'd like to make a recommendation that this commission accept Dan Keys as an alternate.
Mayor,
Yes.
can we have a second for the motion?
I'm asking now.
Uh-huh.
You beat me to it? Is there a second for the motion? Yes.
Are we going to have, shouldn't we have a discussion about whether or not, first of all, we're going to,
Entertain it?
if we're going to have alternates on the board and then have a vote on the individuals?
That's what I had asked.
I mean, to me, that seems to be, because then we can all have a conversation about,
I have
The
no
need
problem with,
for-
either way, that's what the discussion was earlier.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I personally think that's probably my personal opinion is a better way to have it. That way I can hear from my other fellow commissioners who are for or against having alternates.
okay, so maybe what we can do here is have just a quick consensus. Is there a consensus to discuss the item, whether to have it or not, first, and then the individuals?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. Commissioner
Yes.
Tudor, why don't you go ahead and start that discussion?
Thank you. Yeah, historically, we haven't had alternates on this board. However, I understand that the fact that, given the importance of the board and given the fact that it could be a lengthy process and you may have individuals that drop out, I could see the need for having an alternate. However, with the size of the board being 7, I don't think we need 2 alternates. I'm comfortable with having 1 additional alternate on the board. If this was a 5-member board like most of our other ones, I could see, okay, let's have some more input there. But I think adding an additional or adding 1 alternate to the board would make the most sense to me.
Okay, so now we had 7. That would make it 8. It would be a non-voting member, and I would assume they would not be sitting at the seat unless somebody is not there. Is that correct? So that we would, because the only concern I have with that is that you'd have an odd number. Do you know what I'm saying? You have an even number, and that could create a situation. So I wouldn't have a problem with that as long as it was, you know what I'm saying? They would only be if somebody was absent.
Yeah, they wouldn't be a voting member.
Right. But even for discussion, you create, it's already a very big board. That's my concern. It's a very big board. Having been, it's 7 is a large number as it is, and they have to get through a lot of material in a short period of time. The antithesis of that is they have to get through a lot of material in a short period of time. It's not a lengthy process. It's actually a shorter process.
So that's something I wanted to bring to the Commission's attention. The Charter Review Advisory Board actually has to get their recommendation for charter changes to the Commission for consideration 4 months before our ballot deadline with the Supervisor of Elections. So don't go off of the election deadline or our ballot deadline.
So when would that put it?
4 months before your ballot deadline that their materials are due to you.
So when would that be?
Village clerk, doing that math, when would
The
that?
deadline for going, the questions go on the ballots is July 1st. So
March.
any recommendation has to go
April.
before the commissioner. And if it's an ordinance, 2 readings. So 2 months.
So it's really a short period of time. It's not a long period of time.
It's a lot of work in a very short period of time.
Yeah, I'm because of that, I just can't
I
support
will
that.
also say, though, the spirit of the Charter Review Advisory Board is to get, and I think it even says it in your code, is to get as much feedback from the residents as possible with the time that they have. So they're charged with a lot of responsibility in a very short period of time. So, I mean, the spirit of this board is to get every resident feedback that they can to report back to you as to what changes the residents think the charter should make. So even if someone didn't get appointed, they should still give that feedback, because that's the obligation of the people who did get the seats, is to get that feedback from their fellow residents.
I think because it is so much work in a short period of time, because we do already have 7 sitting members, and because anyone who is an alternate, I understand that they're a non-voting member, but they would have to attend every single meeting and every single, and be privy to every single decision and debate and conversation that had taken place, any feedback that was taken from residents, because you can't just step in and join the stream if you don't have any continuity of the discussion and the decisions that were made. So I'm of the opinion that we don't need alternates, and that those people who have volunteered understand the commitment, and because of the short duration and the amount of work to be done, it would be most efficient if the people who are taking these seats keep their seats and do the job front to back.
Commissioner Johnson-Sardelli, you have
I mean, I hear the conversation about the short period of time and a lot of work, and I know what the purpose of an alternate is, and I understand we live in the real world. So,
and you've been on the board, so
you know, there could come an emergency where someone's not present, and I don't think, I agree that we only need 1. If something were to happen, if there were to be a shortfall in a meeting. One of the people that we'd be considering it is here, and I understand what Commissioner Wise has said, they would have to be present for every meeting. I don't think I really have an issue having someone serve as an alternate in case something happens and someone's not at a meeting. And I don't think I have an issue with voting for one alternate.
Okay, so, Vice Mayor, you're the one who won it, so I'm assuming that's a yes for you as well.
Well, it is, but I think we should have two alternates. Never know when things are going to be happening. Somebody's family gets sick, and if we start losing people, and I've spoken to the two people that I suggested for alternates because I had a suspicion they wasn't going to be picked, and they would be willing to attend all the meetings. So I don't think that that'd be a problem. I'm concerned that we might lose one of the persons that was on this board before for political reasons. So I would like to see that we have two members instead of one. If a resident is willing to give their time to serve on boards, other boards, Charter Review Board is a very important board because we're going to be changing our charter. So I like to have as much expertise as possible and commitment on this board. So I think I'm in favor of two, not one. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
so there is a motion on the floor, but let's go back. Is there a different motion on the floor at this point, or do we, because we first had to take the motion on the floor to vote for alternates, and that was two alternates.
Right.
Is there a second for that motion? None, motion fails. Is there another motion on the floor?
I make a motion that we appoint one alternate to the Charter Review Advisory Board.
Is there a second for that motion?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 No.
Okay, so motion, excuse me, please, don't do that. Motion passes 4-1 for one alternate. Okay, with that, there are a choice to pick one alternate of the two. Do you want to do just a roll call for that, everybody? Is that okay with everybody?
That's fine.
Okay, so roll call,
Mayor Troopman?
and just as a reminder, the two choices are Dan Keyes and McDonald Kennedy.
Yes.
So, Dan Keyes.
Vice Mayor Samaria?
Dan Keyes.
Commissioner Johnson Sardella?
Dan Keyes.
Commissioner Tudor?
Dan Keyes.
Commissioner Wise?
Dan Keyes.
Congratulations, Dan Keyes, you're an alternate, 5-0. With that, is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for coming.